So going back to jobs for a minute, recent polling in California says about 49% of likely Democratic voters, guys you're going after, feel like they're falling behind, or rather, and they are falling behind. What would a Dodd presidency do to change that?
Well, one of the reasons they're doing it is because of the absence of union households. In fact, Ben Bernanke, if you ought to be able to find it, someone will put it on a webpage, a speech he gave in Omaha, Nebraska about a month and a half ago, in which he identified the reason, one of the reasons, if not the reason, for the income inequality that's in the country is because of the absence of union households. This was President Ford's nomination to be chairman of the Federal Reserve Board. I mean, this is a very different guy in some ways. I'm not suggesting but he pointed out, he wasn't ideologically speaking, he was just identifying the fact that when there were more union households in this country, there was less inequality. So the right to people to organize. I've offered legislation dealing with the Kentucky River cases where they declared that everybody who's a superintendent, or supervisor rather, for an hour, you may have been a member of the bargaining unit for a week, and in case of nurses particularly. Right. And there are a number of other steps that could be taken where people have a better chance to organize. And so the people can collectively negotiate and bargain for better conditions and so forth. Has an awful lot to do with this. But obviously dealing with energy, we talked about here already, is a major cost factor for people. And it's going to grow very dramatically and very quickly. Higher education costs, we eliminate the profit-making margin when it comes to student loans. If we associate the idea of a higher education as being critical. And the GI Bill wasn't a profit-making operation. It was a great return on investment for the United States when a whole generation of World War II veterans got off and got an education and came back. Someone did the numbers one time on what the collective incomes were of that generation that got that education and did well because they had the education in terms of the payback.
My grandfather went to UCLA after the war. GI Bill went to work for NASA.
Yeah. So a whole bunch of people out there who did that. So that is something we ought to be doing. The healthcare issue is, again, all cost-driven. Hospitals survive based on how many operations they perform. Drug companies survive based on how many prescriptions you're using.
Sure.
So the incentives are all the opposite of what they ought to. It's not based on healthy, but 49% of you wonder why you got an obesity problem with kids? 49% of your schools in the United States have exclusive contracts with soft drink companies and junk food because they don't have the money to meet the No Child Left Behind obligations and the rest. And then they go, wonder why we got an obesity problem. Where'd that diabetes come from? Kids who are on diabetes. I mean, this is not brain surgery we're talking about here. And so when 34 cents on every dollar in healthcare is administrative costs, if it dropped it to 27%, that's $150 billion in savings. So that's what people are paying. So it isn't just the absence of healthcare. It's, I heard Barack say this, a lot of us are saying it. It's people who have insurance, that the costs are going up. So that's killing them in terms of their ability to make ends meet. Yeah. And then obviously promoting, we talked about, an energy bill that would create new jobs and opportunities for people, and that can, give people some choices. But people losing jobs, I run to people who said, look, I was in the manufacturing side, and now I'm selling used cars someplace. I mean, I'm trying to raise a family on that. So they have a job, but so then there's a second job, and someone else got the third job and the fourth job, and trying to raise families and pay for child care and save for college education and retirement.